Welcome back to Bits and Boards. I'm Anthony Krolikowski, and today we have a video game developer and publisher from Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm pretty sure I spelled that right. It's been a while since I've been there. And it is Red Rabbit Games. And joining me today is Max Miller, who is the lead programmer, and Liam Wang, who is a software engineer. So thank you for joining me from the neighboring state. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us,
Thank
Anthony.
you for having us.
So when it comes to the broader picture here, I know we have a couple games here and there, and the first game that you've been working on is this whole group. But Red Rabbit Games as a whole, explain how this works as a publisher and also the developing side with Slimeware in there. But Red Rabbit Games, what exactly is that?
Mind if I take that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Red Rabbit Games serves as, right now we're serving as a developer. So we're making our own games in-house. We have one that we just put out and one that we're working on currently. But in the future, we're hoping to expand as a publisher to incubate other indie studios. We believe that there is a space in the market for a team that can help do business side operations for indie games. So right now we're focused on putting our own games out, but we'd like to bring in more people eventually and help publish other games in the future.
And looking on your website there, I saw in your mission statement here, the comment about the AAA studio space.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of give me that in your own words, what that's like, and then here on the smaller scale, how some of that works in your favor and what you're doing different than the AAA space.
So we don't really have eyes into the AAA space necessarily. We mostly hear what other people or what other developers say when it comes to the AAA space. But we know that there's been a lot of layoffs, that developers in the AAA space have a lot of difficulty in trying to make the games that they really want to make. There's a lot of news and discussion online about are developers really able to do the things that they want to do and make the games to the quality that they want to make it. So from our end, we're able to hopefully bring in studios, support them with the ideas that they come with, and support them into making the game that they want to make to completion, their full vision, with no compromises, hopefully.
And with the start of Red Rabbit Games here, and also the one that is in early access over on Steam, Unsent, talk to me about this beginning journey here with working together with your developers and getting a game out, and what those beginning stages have been like to make these dreams work out.
I would say Unsent, yeah, it's an interesting story. It started really as a student project. So myself, Liam, we had a couple other students, Brian, our creative director, and Ben, our character artist, as well as a large team of student volunteers. And we kind of all came together as part of a program called the Game Studio at Clark University. And in that program, you're allowed to basically come up with your own game idea and have a kind of a mock studio to put it together. And we just worked really hard, much further than you would need to just do it for the class. And it became something that we thought was really special. So we got funding from Red Rabbit eventually, and we're able to really, get a lot done in a short amount of time and put together a game that we felt was really, really special. It was an awesome process to go from just being a student making a fun project to something that's really serious, something that's actually out and people are playing and having fun with.
Now, if I remember correctly from the Steam page, it's been out since about October in this early access stage. So what exactly is in the game at this point in going forward here? What have you heard from people who've been playing the game so far on this early access stage?
Well, so far what's in the game is what we would say about 2/3 of the game. We have the first level, the Unsentiment department, where you start your day, your first day as Valentine, the main character. You have the second level, Beauregard's Mansion, where you help a rich, a son who inherited a lot of wealth. You return a letter of his long lost love, who moved on from him completely. And then the third level, Back Some Way, you deliver a letter from Pamela to her sister Calliope, who has recently deceased. And Calliope also sends a letter back to Pamela. So that represents about 2/3 of the game, two major levels of platforming and adventure fun, with one last level that's still in the works.
Not to get too ahead of ourselves here, but first, When it comes to the game here itself and those early stages, talk to me about too the story here when it comes to this character, and you've mentioned some of the areas and stuff in these characters. How do they all interact, and what is the story here?
So Unsent is set in what we call, or it's an alternate, I guess, dimension that you could call the regulatory realm. It is where human superstitions manifest as bureaucracies. So there's, uh, say, like you pick up a four-leaf clover and you feel like you get a bit luckier. There's a bureaucracy that makes sure that whoever picks up a four-leaf clover is a bit more lucky. If somebody like is walking on the sidewalk and steps on a crack, somebody goes and breaks their back. So you play as the protagonist Valentine, starting his first day in the unsentiment department, where they try to get letters that got lost between the cracks or like randomly within the world and return those letters that never got sent back to their rightful recipients. Um, but what you discover is that the unsentiment department has been sort of shifted a bit. There's been a change in management. Things are not quite what they used to be. Employees are very unhappy, maybe working themselves to death at times. But in order to resolve that conflict, you'll have to play the game to find out.
In playing the game here, obviously it is a game, and there is a genre involved. So it looks like from these videos that we've been showing people, platformer. Put this in your own words. How would you describe this game to people?
From a gameplay standpoint,
Yes.
so in Unsent, you play as a character with a large amount of movement options, and as you progress in the game, you unlock more movement abilities. So when you start out, you have some basic movement abilities. You can run around, you can jump, you can double jump, things that you might expect if you played a game like Mario, especially the 3D Mario games. But as you play further, you'll unlock new abilities such as an umbrella, which allows you to glide and shoot up on air gusts. And eventually, you'll even unlock a grappling hook. And so the idea is that as you go through the game, you'll unlock more and more abilities. It's a very movement-focused game. So if you've played things like, as I mentioned, Mario earlier, Banjo-Kazooie, Psychonauts, it's a lesser-known one, but a very heavy inspiration for us. And so the main gameplay involves using these new movement options to be able to traverse unique environments that are very story-filled.
When it comes to the creation of this game here, how did you come up with it, and why did you decide to go ahead with the plot here, the characters, the setting? What was the inspiration behind this?
Well, we don't have the person who came up with the idea in the
That's
room
okay.
right now. Brian, our creative director, a lot of this is his brainchild. He was, I think, very inspired by Psychonauts, that art style, especially like it's a very how to put it, asymmetrical art style. One of his main design points is like whenever you make something, make it a bit crooked. But he's very inspired by the story of that world, the tone of that world, like and all those sorts of things. So a lot of that came from Brian. Yeah.
So how are the two of you able to make this come to life with your skills and your assets that you bring to the team when it comes to programming this all and making the story run properly?
So we're both engineers on the game. So our role on the team is to be able to develop the code which allows the game to run. So we're not responsible for the visual side as much as the mechanical side of what's going on. Me and Liam were both computer science students. I think Liam focused a bit more on games than I did originally, but we came to games because it was a strong focus in the university that we went to, and we developed kind of skills that allowed us to become better engineers. And that really the whole time it was a huge learning process. I think every week we felt like we learned something and we got better. We used Unreal Engine, which is a game engine that is very popular these days. And I think every single week we found a new problem and we were able to learn something to fix it. So it was a learning process that we were, apt to from the background we have as computer science students.
Being that this is your first game here that is out and about, even though it is in this early access stage, tell me about going forward with it. And you've taken this time to have some people respond to you either through Discord or Steam or whatever the sources may be. But looking ahead to this game and giving it a full release here, what is this pathway that you have and on your end of things to get it to where it should be, and how could people expect to see this move forward to completion?
So right now we're focused on Real Tiny, mainly because our CEO wants to prove that we can develop games within roughly 6 months. So like the program would, to give an idea of what our incubation program would be like, ideally we bring in a studio early on, have them work on a game for 6 months, have them work on their second game for 6 months, and then their third game, they work on it for a year. So to be the first test for that, the guinea pig, if you will, we are moving on to our second game, Real Tiny, finishing that to completion. And then once Real Tiny is complete, we'll move on back to Unsent and hopefully finish that out.
In being that you now add on to this too, so being that you were recently out of school and working in the gaming space, trying to get your games and being this be a full-time career for you and make this work out, is this a full-time career for you? How is this company that in this partnership here, how has this worked out for you and gotten this vision going? How does this all pan out and work together? You mentioned this 6-month timeline here and there. As a developer, as an employee, how is this working for you?
I think, it's a wonderful opportunity, what we've been given through Red Rabbit. And I say that, but we're also kind of like co-founders of the Red Rabbit, company. So it's an amazing opportunity to be able to have the funding to be able to pursue these things. It's difficult to make a game in 6 months. We're not going to sit here and say it's very, very easy, but it's very important to us that we prove that it's possible so that we can have that happen in an incubator space. And as someone who's recently graduated, it's been kind of an unbelievable opportunity. It's extremely difficult to get a career in games right now, and to kind of be put in a spot where we have the opportunity to not only prove ourselves, but work every day towards becoming part of the game industry. It's incredibly valuable, and I don't want to speak for Liam, but I personally am very, very thankful for what Red Rabbit has done for us.
Yeah, very, very thankful. It's been an amazing opportunity. I've learned so much across these past few months, and it's been an awesome opportunity.
And touching on that a little bit more, so when maybe your fellow classmates graduating as well, what are their prospects or what is their journeys maybe that you can relate it to? Or like, as you said, being employed out of school and getting to the gaming space, how do those, advice would you have for new college graduates or people looking maybe to start a degree in game design? What kind of expectations should they set for themselves to start off on this journey?
I would say one of the biggest things is you want to keep an eye on what people who are, very experienced in the industry, what they're looking for in terms of experience. You want to try to become as best as you can, because there's not really a free ticket into the games industry at all. Especially if you're trying to start from the ground up. Try to find like-minded people who really want to make this work and try to create a project that you really want to enjoy. Games are, like, at the end of the day, both supposed to be fun for the people who are playing them, but also fun for the people who are developing them. And maybe the project that you end up working on, maybe it doesn't work out, maybe it does. But if you can create something that is really, really special and you manage to show that to people and they start catching on, they might just grab you and take you along, So
the number one advice too I would give anyone who wants to get into the space, regardless of if you're going through university, if you're going through a program, or if you're just learning on your own, is you need to find people that are in the same spot you are, maybe even a little bit ahead, a little behind. You need to be able to have a community that you can work with and that you can connect with. And it's not necessarily just from a networking standpoint, but the people that you are learning with now will be the people that are going to be in those places in the future. And I would not have the opportunity that I have right now if I wasn't able to connect with my peers in that way while I was learning. So that's very, very important.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go into our little break here, but when we come back, we touched on Real Tiny just a little bit, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about this next project of yours and how that's going. So stay with us, and we'll be right back. All right, so Real Tiny. We mentioned this a little bit, and then we kind of jumped into some other stuff. We want to get back to it right now. So this being your second game together with your team, tell me about first the inspiration for this and the very beginnings of making this game work out?
I'll cover that one. So Real Tiny, when we were coming up with our second game, we kind of all came up with ideas together, and the one that I pitched was this game, Real Tiny, and it's a game where you play as a very tiny character and you go fishing in a very tiny creek. And I mean, I've been a lifelong fisherman, so it's very much inspired by the joy that I've found in that hobby, but also the joy in a more niche hobby, which is called micro fishing. So it's a hobby where people focus on catching lots of different species of small fish with very small equipment. It's growing definitely online. I believe it started in Japan and it's very popular now. And we thought it would be a great opportunity to make a game that's, very cozy, very cute, and capitalizes on the growing community that's interested in this and in fishing in total.
How would you say, obviously it's a fishing game, but how would you say the gameplay is adjacent to or adding on to, or its own beast entirely? So we have things like Animal Crossing where you throw out your rod and you just mash that A button as soon as it hooks. We have games like Final Fantasy 15 where the fishing is a little bit more intense. Even Fire Emblem had fishing in Three Houses. There's a lot of games that include fishing as mini games, but not as many games where fishing is the main thing. So how does this play out?
No, I feel like you'd have more to say about that.
I guess I mean I'm a little responsible for the
Go ahead,
fishing
yeah.
mechanic. So I would say we're trying to one thing we found in a lot of fishing games, we've played a lot to make this, is that a lot of them I felt will take away the things that I think are the most fun about fishing and turn them kind of into more of a mini game. So what Real Tiny tries to do is be more of has more simulation aspects to it. So you can put out your lure, you can watch it float with the river. The fish behave in a way that's a lot more realistic than a lot of games. So we want the fishing to feel the way it does in real life, but still within the context of a world that's fun to play around with. So we're trying to find a balance between what's realistic, but also what's fun. And I think what people will enjoy the most about Real Tiny is that instead of just pressing a button, there's a lot more depth to the gameplay. Whether it's trying to find the best place to have your lure float downstream or to learn about how a fish reacts to certain things in the environment.
And we're taking a lot of inspiration from other cozy games with aspects of like community, a lot of focus on making cute and colorful characters. And hopefully that should make the in-depth fishing feel a lot more approachable for people and really get them invested into, the comfort that fishing brings as a hobby, as a sport, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and what have you learned from your time in Unsent that you've carried over or further honed going into Real Tiny, and how has that been?
I would say we have a lot more of an idea of what we want to do and kind of what we would need to do. We kind of have a bigger idea of like really important things, like when we put in a save system, when we build out, say, like input rebinding, things like this. We know a bit more about like how does that stuff work and how can we develop a system to make that stuff work. Even like small things that like maybe seem small to the player, like the way that your menus open, the things that happen when your menus open, that sort of stuff. We've had a lot more experience building out a lot of really complicated intertwined systems, at least on the programming side. So we're a lot more comfortable in that area. And I would say, speaking just a bit for the art team, they've got a lot more experience with building out characters, building out worlds, that sort of thing, and coordinating with each other to make this sort of stuff. So really everyone's improved in like all dimensions in a way. So
In going forward with this whole company MO here of having X amount of time to work on a game, get the game out, where are we in Real Tiny's development right now?
So in terms of our 6-month time span, I'd say we're about halfway through it right now. From a standpoint of a technical standpoint, we have a lot of the foundational mechanics that are done and complete. Our focus now is to flesh out the remainder of the world. So that is more of an art side task. That's about improving the visuals, the characters, the story. I would say that we're about halfway through the game and about halfway through our time span. So we're on a good track, I would say. We currently have a demo out, which you can play now. So you can see where we are currently in our progress. If you'd like to, it's on Steam.
And with that demo and also what will eventually be the final product or the early access product here, How many hours are we looking at of gameplay, either with repetition involved and replayability as an aspect here, or original content and unique content?
I feel like I could give an answer, but the thing that we've learned is we thought that Unsent would be kind of like a 3 or 4 hour game maybe, but I've talked to many people who have spent well over 10 hours, maybe into 15 hours just to beat the game, not to complete everything. So I honestly couldn't tell you the exact amount of time that it'll take to complete, especially because we still have a couple levels left to build. But I think that I would not go into it expecting to spend less time on it than you've spent with Unsent if you've played that one as well.
In playing through this game here, the real tiny one, it kind of sounds funny saying it like that, but what exactly is the draw with the gameplay loop? So different environments and maybe an inventory system. How does this all work and tie in together with exploration and progression and getting through to an end goal here?
So the main thing I would say is that our goal is to get you to really get immersed in the fishing aspect, and sort of the motivations for why you might go fishing. So all the systems that we build are made to support that. The people in town, you start off the game by entering this town called Critters Creek, and it's this town full of little animals that are all living here alongside this little creek, which they call home. And their whole town is kind of propped up by this, or on one side, by a fishing economy. So there's this whole ecosystem here where they hand out fishing licenses to people, and the more trust that you build with the town, the better a license you'll get. So you'll have permission to travel down the further sections of the river to catch more fish, that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of like, I would say, getting yourself immersed in a community aspect of the game, but that leads into getting immersed in the fishing aspect of the game. So our hope is to try to have, I guess, a lot of things lead back into the fishing, so that that moment of fishing when you're in nature, when you're waiting for the fish to bite, is really, really solid and really immersive.
When it comes to both of these games and where they're at, tell me about, just once again, the roadmap here, both for Unsent, which is in that early access phase, but you are working on Real Tiny right now, and then the future of Real Tiny when that release date's expected to come out, and the state of the demos and how that's all going to work. Another thing that I saw on the Steam page for Unsent is when it comes to pricing. So obviously the game is at a certain point, but as you add more content, that price could change. Just give me some of that in your own words and how that's going to go looking forward.
I guess I'll kind of tackle the questions individually, right? So I think our roadmap for completing Real Tiny, the goal is to have the game out in early to mid-May, and we will have a couple, things on the roadmap that the community will be able to experience on the way there. So the big one coming up we'll be at PAX East in Boston, Massachusetts. So you're welcome to come there and try out the game if you'd like to. I imagine the state of that game will be a little bit ahead of what you'll see online, so it'll be a good place to experience it. As far as Unsent is concerned, we try to spend a little bit of time here and there working on it while we're on Real Tiny, but the main push for it will definitely be after we have Real Tiny released. In terms of price, there's nothing solid, I believe, in how the price might increase if we add more content. I don't want to make any promises about whether or not that will happen, but we believe Real Tiny might be a little bit more expensive than Unsent based on the amount of content that will be available on release. Those are all the things that I have the answers to at the moment.
It's all a work in progress, right?
Of course,
as you go forward, yeah, understandable. Going forward here with PAX East, and obviously you're also looking for feedback here and there when it comes to your communities. How can people give you feedback on these games, and what exactly are you looking for in your development cycles here?
So we have a Discord server. It is the Red Rabbit Games Discord server, which you can join if you're interested in the development of the game. We try to post updates, I think maybe every week, or just about as fast as we develop. Just like try to get people invested, and we also ask questions there as well. We also have a lot of social media. I think we're on just about every platform.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So if you look up Red Rabbit Games, you're probably bound to find us. Our handle, our mascot is a cute red rabbit holding a game controller, so you can't
We
miss
got him
it.
up on the screen right now.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And we're still at a stage where we are, we're very small and where our developers are very passionate about what we're working on. So if you're in the Discord, if you're on the social media, I'd say there's a very good chance that we'll have, for at least the time being, opportunity to talk to you. And if you have advice about the game, we'd love to hear it. We love interacting with the community. And a lot of the best things, I think, from Unsent have come out of those interactions, especially with our speedrunning community. So we really appreciate everyone who joins and helps us out.
I can only imagine how your speedrunning community is, because I've seen the stuff. Of course, Mario 64 is the most popular one, but all those techniques and breaking the game, insanity.
They are so talented. It's very impressive.
It's they found everywhere to break our game.
Now, it's probably way too early for this, but I have to ask anyways. Based on Red Rabbit's plans here and the way you all work together, any inklings of what a third game could be, or is this just way too early for something like that?
That's a good question. When we did our prototyping, we had a lot of game ideas that were currently their internal demos, but they were pretty promising. We did land on the Real Tiny game with a vote, but there was a close second. So I'll say there are some games that are potentially in works, but unfortunately they're all internal demos. So if you do want to learn about them, you might have to check out the socials. We might post about them there.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we hit the road here and go fishing?
We just released our demo, so if you are really interested in Real Tiny, please wishlist us on Steam. It really does help. And drop us feedback. Join our Discord server. Say hi to the devs. We love hearing from the community.
Yeah. And we're extremely thankful for you, Anthony, for having us on this show. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak about what's going on over in Worcester, Massachusetts with Red Rabbit and with our current game.
Of course, over here at News 10, we go out to Worcester just a little bit, a real tiny amount, but I have been out that way here and there. But thanks for joining on the Zoom. And coming up in the rest of these episodes I have planned out here, we have a couple more developers, so stay tuned for that, indie devs for that matter. And once again, thanks for joining, and be sure to find their game on Steam and all their social media. So we'll catch you later.